I was going to tell this story about my friend and I making a bet about going to the Olympics. And it started as a joke. So the purpose of this video is to kind of relay a story that I hope brings across the metaphor of things that can start as a joke or things that can start as something you might not be taking that seriously can end up in things that could be really cool or exciting or something you find passion in. So it started in, I would say 2010. My friend Ross and I were snowboarding and competing in the halfpipe and like going around doing all these competitive halfpipe events on snow. And we would always see these border cross guys. Like I used to race border cross, grew up in the mountains, snowboarding. You know, I used to race it a lot when I was a little kid and just, you know, at the weekend events and everything, and it was a lot of fun. But my friend Ross and me would always see these guys like just going super fast, and it was super like exciting and gnarly looking. And we were like, hey, let's see. We were like always wanted to see like, I wonder how we would like, you know, measure up against these guys. And we were always talking about it, like, come on, let's do it. But it never really came to fruition, at least then. And then I actually, right around the time I told a story that I broke my tailbone, right around that time, I also got dropped by all my sponsors the next day. And I was just like over it. Like I was so over snowboarding. I think I was 18 at that point. It must have been 2011 or 2012. And I just took off in my truck and went on a skate trip. And I was in Oregon, and I ran into one of the Olympic coaches at a skate park. And it was just like completely random, but not, that I saw him there. And I was like completely gave up on snowboarding, like was just, you know, over it, was just kind of camping in my car, like cruising, ran into the coach, and I just threw it out there. I was like, I always wanted to do the, you know, the border cross thing. I wanted to try to go to the Olympics on a snowboard, like, but I always wanted to see if I could do it racing, because the reason I was like so over, you know, the half pipe and slope style and different events like that was because they were judged, and you can never really truly get the right answer, in my opinion, through other people's minds. Like I don't like judged events. I like winners and losers. Like as far as like a race, you can't deny a race. You know, at the end of the day, someone crosses that finish line first and someone doesn't. It can't be like four people being like, I think he crossed first. I think no, that's what happened. So from the half-pipe days, I was never really a fan of that, but I thought, you know, with that, you can't argue. Like you can't, there's no arguing. You know, it's like you either won or you didn't. And that always drew me into that. So anyway, I told him like, let me, you know, come hang out with these border crossers. Let me come race with you guys. And he's like, cool, I'll make the connection with the border cross team and see if there's anything there. So I was like, okay, awesome. Thank you. You know, and so literally like after I had run into him at that skate park, like 2 months later, they're like, hey, we're having a training camp in New Zealand. And if you pay your way and figure out how to get here, come join us. So I was like, okay, I'm there. And so bought a ticket, bought a bunch of used border cross boards, because there's a specific board that it takes to you know, be fast. And next thing I know, I'm in New Zealand racing with all these border cross guys from around the world. Not just American guys, but there's, you know, Australians and Japanese and Germans and, you know, French, from all around the world that love racing border cross. And so it was really cool to get thrown in there in the mix with all these guys that I've literally never experienced anything with whatsoever. So all I knew was just like, you know, I've been snowboarding my whole life, go as fast as you can. And the first day I was racing with all these guys, and I was like, I mean, I don't want to sound full of myself, but I was doing all these heats and I was winning. I was like getting the fastest times, and like, I don't like to boast about myself, and I don't like to say like I'm so great, but I thought I was getting lucky. Like they were having like these timing systems on your boots or you race the race, but also I'm like, okay, like, well, you got the fastest time today, and this, and I'm like, there's no way, like something's wrong. There's no way that I didn't just show up here and now I'm the fastest guy. Like it doesn't really work like that. It's not really, it just doesn't make sense. So I didn't really believe it. I didn't really think that it. So then we show up the next day, second day of the training camp there in New Zealand, and the same thing happened. I'm like, okay, I guess this is real. And so there is the reason that it was so exciting about the trip to New Zealand was in 2012, and the Olympics were in 2014, and I knew that I needed to get in there pretty fast in order to get good enough to be able to compete on that level with these guys. And so the reason why the New Zealand trip was so intense and special was it was my first border cross race since I was like 9 years old. And it was called like some kind of like national cup or whatever you want to call it, of a type of race. But the way that whole racing system works and the Olympic thing works is that you need points in order to get on like the World Cup scale, and then the World Cup is the Olympic qualifier. So like you can't just like show up to a World Cup and be like, I want to race. You know, there's like this whole bracketed system of points that you need to like work your way up to do. And the reason why it was so like questionable for me was we didn't know, and the U.S. Olympic team coaches didn't know if there was going to be enough time for me to gather enough points in order to get on the World Cup, in order to qualify for the Olympics. But we were going to try. And the reason, like I said, the New Zealand trip was so special was I needed 50 points to get on the World Cup. And the last opportunity to get those 50 points was there in New Zealand. And there was 2 races that took place down there in New Zealand that would have given me that opportunity back to back. One day, one race, and then the following day was the next race. And so the first race, I was like just gung-ho, so ready, so excited. And I literally like crashed going out of the gate. Like first run out, done, not a chance. And I'm like, so then the next day the pressure's on, is my last chance to get that 50 points, or the whole entire idea of going to the Olympics was done. Like that was my chance. That was the last opportunity to get on that World Cup the following year. I'm like, okay, like here we go, all or nothing, like just. And so I ended up getting second. So I got second, with the whole world being there, all the different countries and everything, in my first border cross race back. So that was really exciting for me. I got the 50 points, and then the next year I got my spot on the World Cup. And so I was like, okay, like it's not done yet. It was kind of like, I was like, kind of just wanted to see how far I could get, but I just kept kind of not getting lucky, but like I just kept barely sliding by. So the next year I got on the World Cup and competed, I think the 2013 season. So I competed that whole year and got some points, which then on that World Cup, I had to get like a top 10 or something like that to secure my spot the next year, which was the Olympic year, to then have the opportunity to qualify. So it's like, you have to qualify, in order to qualify, then you qualify. It's like, it's a really long, system, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So, and a lot of traveling, going to Europe, a few times, like a lot. Going a few times a month, I was gonna say, but that's a little drastic. Like we were going there a lot. And so
How old were you around that time? Like going, like, so.
I was 19. Yeah.
So you're 19, you're traveling.
Yeah.
And you're getting that moment to jump into Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like pretty random how this all started at a skate park by running into an old friend that I knew from, a few years prior.
Destiny.
Yeah, and exactly. And then I'm literally like all of a sudden on this Olympic program, going to Spain and going to Andorra and going to France and Switzerland and Austria and New Zealand and all these different places that is just like so random, and I didn't really and now to realize like, man, I've been blessed to be able to see so much through that experience and experience so many different cultures and the way people live, and it's really such a special thing. And honestly, looking back, I was so focused on making this Olympic dream happen. I think I could have probably taken in a little bit more of it, but I was so focused on the race that I didn't really soak it in as much as I would have liked to. But with that being said, I appreciated it so much. And now, the next times now I can say that I'll go back to those places and be able to experience them and cherish them even more. Yeah, so that was an incredible experience all in and of itself, being able to travel around the world and see all this. And the pressure was really coming down because I had gotten the top 10 qualifying spot, so I had secured my own spot on the World Cup the following year, which was like a huge goal for me. So it was basically the first one, see if you can get the 50 points at the first race. And then the next one is like, see if you can get on the World Cup. And then the World Cup was like, okay, see if you can get a spot on the Olympic year World Cup, which is like a huge feat. And then I was like, okay, I did that. I just snuck in there, just barely snuck in there. And I literally by one spot, I just got on there, but I did it. And so the Olympic year, there's basically, I think, from what I remember, I think there's 4 qualifiers. You have 4 opportunities to qualify. And the way that works is that they take, out of hundreds of people, they take 4. The U.S. takes 4 people for the sport of border cross to the Olympics out of a lot of people that are trying. And there was this notion kind of in the border cross world that it's the hardest. The American team is the hardest to get on. It could be even harder because it's so competitive. And of course, every country's like that. But I think there's just the most amount of good riders at the time from America. Each country had a few good riders, but there was a really competitive thing going for America. So that next year, it was just I'm just going to give this everything I have and see if I can do it. And so there was 4 opportunities to qualify. And the first one, I show up, it was in Austria, and I got 30th place or something, horrible. Just, not to say 30th place isn't horrible, but it's not first place. So let's just say that I didn't have a chance of making it on the team from that 30th place result. Then the next place was in Lake Louise, Canada, and I was on my way. It was negative 30 degrees that day. I'll never forget. It was so cold. And I was on my way to one of the final rounds where I was going to at least get top 5. And someone bumped me in this little, and I lost all my speed. I was on my way to a 6th, 5th, first place result. And one little thing, that's the thing with border crosses, it's such an exciting sport because there's so much uncertainty in there. One person can do this or that, or somebody crashes here and takes out the rest of the whole entire field. It's just a gamble. You don't know what's going to happen. And so somebody came and clipped me, and I just lost my speed. Didn't fall, I just lost my speed, but that took me out of the race, and I ended up 15th or 20th or something because that margin for error, you can't, it's just things, the margin between first place and 10th place is just literally one moment of the guy that could have won could end up in 10th in just like that. It's just so much uncertainty. So anyway, that was 2 down, and I was nowhere near qualifying for the Olympic team. And so I truthfully had one last chance. And we were headed to Andorra, Switzerland, or Andorra, which is near Spain. It's a country of itself. And there was 2 qualifiers there, back to back, same. One day, World Cup, next day, World Cup, and those were the 4. And it was literally coming down to these final 2 days if I was going to go to the Olympics or not. And all I did that whole time was just focus, okay, like a laser. I just couldn't stop thinking, this is your moment, I'm not going to think about anything else. This is your moment, and I just get the chills talking about it. I was just so focused, and my gear, this is crazy. My whole entire board bag, all my clothes, everything got lost on the plane. And so I show up, I go to practice. I don't have anything. I had to borrow boots, and I had to use somebody's park board, play around board to go train the day of practice. And so I was setting up a friend's extra snowboard, borrowing gear, everything, getting ready for the race day. And literally the night before the race, my stuff shows up. So it's just like everything that's happening is so just sporadic and like random. And so I'm like, okay, like cool, it's here, let's do this. And you know, I'll to try to make a long story short. I had everything I'd ever I've never focused more in my life, and I wanted it so bad. And I won the first race, won the second race. There's four races that lead up to the final. I won the third race, and then I was in the final with 6 people, and I pulled out of the race and I was in like maybe 5th place. And under this one turn, I just kind of sneaked in front of everybody, and I won. And I was the number one. That made me the number 1 qualifier, guaranteed to go to the Olympics for America. And it was just like the most emotional day. You know, my dad was there, and we were just crying and hugging. It was so exciting because it was like I did it. You know, I did it. There's nothing like I freaking did it. And like it all started as a joke. And like I'm even getting emotional right now thinking about it because it was like let's see if we can do this. Why not? Let's just see. The opportunity's there. Let's see what happens. And then in that moment when I crossed the finish line, it was like this whole entire thing became a reality. Like you're going to the Olympics. And that was just something that I can't describe, but it was like it started as a joke. It literally started as a joke, and then now, you know, you just put forward that passion and desire, and here I am. I qualified first for the Olympics. And so there was the race the next day, and I was just like, I'm not even doing it. I'm not doing it. And like a bunch of people were giving me crap for not. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not even like, I know what I came here to do, and that's why I'm here. And so then the X Games happened, which was like I think a last chance qualifier for certain people, but I ended up like doing it out of practice to want to do it, but I didn't feel comfortable doing it. Almost broke my arm, overshot this whole entire jump. Would have but I didn't, and I was like, okay, no more riding till the Olympics. So I literally took like 3 weeks off, didn't do anything, and next thing you know, we're like on this plane headed to Sochi, Russia for the Olympics, and like next thing you're getting fitted in all this gear and going through this like thing to go to the opening ceremonies, and you're there with, you know, all the best athletes in the world, and it was like just a really, really, really cool experience. And that was when, like, you know, they thought the whole thing was gonna get, you know, it was crazy. The whole Olympic situation they were at like Russia was at war with Turkey or something like that, and then there was like the craziest military like hiding in the snow with white AR-15, like everything was just like in the snow. They had like identify themselves like, hey, like crazy people hiding in bunkers, like just the whole thing was surrounded. I think America had like 7 of their battleships like sitting in the Black Sea right there. We were staying in this hotel that was literally every single level had a CIA agent waiting there. Like we were completely barricaded in to this hotel. It was really, really crazy, and something I've never experienced like that before. But all in all, it was such a cool experience. And then I don't like to say almost, but next thing, we waited like 16 days. Our event was like on the last day of the whole Olympics, and I went up there. I had a dream the night before that I won, and it was like it made perfect sense. And like my dream came, you know, like every run was like perfectly happening in my dream, and I literally like woke up and like everything in my dream was coming true. I won the first race, won the second, or I can't remember exactly what happened. Maybe like qualified through, and then I think in the semifinal, I overshot this jump. Basically, got knocked out of the final round, which I would have guaranteed gotten first through 6th. I missed that final round by like 1 inch. I basically made a mistake and overshot this jump and got passed by the finish line by 1 inch. And I truthfully feel like I said, almost doesn't count, but I do feel that I would have most likely won if I was in that final round, just to kind of because of the way things played out. But I didn't. I got 9th. I ended up 9th, and it's all good. But it's not even about the result. Like I think everyone there is winners. Like at the core, it's like, okay, you know, you're with these guys that are competing at the Olympics. But all that I really realized that changed at the Olympics is like, I've been racing with these guys all year long and for all the past few years. The only thing that has changed is the design of the course and the banners. You know, like everything else is like, it could be anybody's day. But don't get me wrong, the dudes that won are the best in the world by far, for sure. But it was cool to just know that, you know, everyone there, you made it to the Olympics, you know, you're doing that. And that was a really cool experience for me. And just to experience that whole thing and have my family there and just, you know, kind of create something out of nothing. Like I literally like ran into a dude at a skate park, asked if I could come, and then it just transformed into this thing. And it was a really cool experience. And what I wanted to share about that whole thing is just like, you know, be curious, find out what you might, you know, some opportunity might lead to something down the road that you never know could, you know, go into that way. And also just to appreciate the moment, you know, appreciate those times, because you don't realize, you know, how awesome that is being here, being in Europe or there, or this or that, until it's gone in a way where like, whoa, you know, just to really appreciate those moments, because that's all we really have in life is moments, and then to make the best of those in the best way that you can, and have a great time, and try to, you know, just inspire others and do things that lift you up and make you feel good, and be proud of your hard work. So that's all I have to say about that. But thanks for listening to my Olympic story, and we'll see you next time.